per month, and I know I probably won't be able to give more than the asking rate, but what I can offer you is rainbows and cookies.
My, who was that young, inspired, so young, and in 4:3 aspect ratio? Hello, friends and YouTubers alike, and welcome to a very strange setup. If you're wondering, these aren't deadly spikes. This is an audio room. That'd be like a weird, what's Shaggy been up to these past few years? It is 10 years to the day, the very day, since the beginnings of TttC talking to the camera, so I thought I would just come on out here and... I don't have a script for this, but I thought I'd just say a few things, because hey, YouTube. Where to begin? Oh, we'll begin by calling this extra special anniversary episode EeeT. Everything ever except that. Because I want to go back and talk about a bunch of things that you've never actually seen before. Lots of mini video and audio projects and other medias, I suppose, that just kind of got left by the wayside for one reason or another. I'm not going to show you all of it, just going to kind of give you some snippets and see what you could have seen. Geez, where to begin? Okay, first, why? Why did I start TttC talking to the camera 10 years ago? Well, as the video you may have watched and probably shouldn't, don't watch any of them really. Let's go back to the year 2008, when YouTube was still a fresh new format that people were still figuring out just what to do with it. And it was actually a really magical time. It was kind of like, the closest thing I can think of is like when a TV showed up and people were like, have it. Make a thing. And that's kind of what everyone did back in the day. We were watching things like, if I can remember these names, Dave Days and Philip DeFranco, early Freddie Wong stuff. And of course, a lot of the people who've made content back then are still making it now. But in between that, a bunch of us who just kind of had cameras and didn't know what else to do kind of wanted to get in on it. It's just a platform for a place to put things. Do you realize how hard it was to share a video back in the day? I remember when I was in high school and a box of 5 burnable DVDs cost $55. So you really had to want to share a video back then. And also my school at the time didn't even have DVD players in any rooms, so I had to edit a video in iMovie, send it to a digital Hi8 camcorder, plug that into a VCR, record that into a VHS, play that on a VCR. And then the year I graduated high school, they just said, hey everyone, guess what? DVD players! In every classroom. I'm getting off topic. But yeah, why TttC? Well, seeing what was happening with YouTube and just kind of freshly graduating and working, but not really having content that was my own. It seemed kind of like a perfect fit because it's like I could now practice my After Effects, but not on like a job, just on the side and then have somewhere to put it. Hence why a simple, dumb rent application video had effects in it. Innovation! But also on a sadder note, I originally tested out with YouTube because it was kind of in a time where, I was living downtown. I was living with a bunch of good roommates, but then my friend who I was originally there with, he moved out to go do other things, and then this sense of loneliness just kind of creeped in, especially because it was a basement apartment with no windows. I had this tiny, if you imagine this little box, like this little ray of sunlight coming out here, I wouldn't even have that. It's not sunlight, it's a light. I was in a basement in a tiny room with a little window that led to an alleyway, and so it was very isolating. I'm getting flashbacks. The room was about this wide. So YouTube was kind of like a nice way to talk to people. Or, since there was no person there at the moment, talk to the camera. And then from there, it was just kind of a fun thing to do. I would kind of update people on events and things I was up to, things to check out in Toronto. I didn't know what kind of show I wanted to do just yet, because I didn't want to get terribly personal in the vlog sense. I didn't really want the real me to be the product of whatever the series would have been. And I was also inspired by Charlie Brooker, who you may know from Black Mirror. But back in the day, he had this series called Screen Wipe, and he still does versions of that called News Wipe, and he does like yearly updates once in a while now. But Screen Wipe was this British show about television hosted by Charlie Brooker, but he was basically doing like life information, but with his twist on it. Adding like little skits and scenes and shorts, overreactions, characters, he himself being a caricature of like a news host, because I can't imagine him being as angry all the time about things. And that's kind of something I did as well. I kind of made a caricature of how YouTube was at the time, where I was myself, but overplayed it to the point of being someone who was always like kind of chasing trends, doing the latest thing that was on YouTube that everyone was doing, but then I also kind of warp it a little to give it my extra touch to it. I don't know what I'm going on about. Anyway, so that kind of went on for a good 3 years, from like 2008 to plus 3 of those years. But then as things got busier and busier between comic stuff and work stuff, I would start doing less involved, like less effects-based and sketch story-based stuff, and started doing more of these like mini update episodes, more out of guilt, because I just wanted something to be online, but it wasn't my best work. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm still around, here's a thing, and you've all done it. And so I was never truly satisfied with the update videos, but there just wasn't time anymore for these like full-fledged videos as we got to like the 4th and the 5th season, we called them. The big videos were more spread out. I started making them more focused about a singular topic. There was also like the travel videos sprinkled in throughout. But then in the end, after the core 5 years, I just kind of got too busy. You know, that old story. Setting up a camera and a microphone just felt like such a hassle. I wanted a permanent setup, but I didn't have the space for it. And now we're at the excuse hour of the show. Anyway, long story short, Twitter's what killed talking to the camera. Because I realized once I got on Twitter, that fateful Comic-Con year, I'm like, all my thoughts and dumb ideas can just be shared instantaneously and I don't have to set up anything? It's kind of the same thing if you ever talk to people who host podcasts. When they hang out with their friends and their friends have a good story to tell them, they're like, wait, don't tell me yet. We gotta do it for the show. I kind of had the inverse effect of that, where I'm like, well, I have the idea now, let's just dish it out. No reason to film it. So that's the death of talking to the camera. So on that jolly note, let's take a look back at some of the things that you didn't see, because this, of course, is EeeT, everything ever except that, because there's a couple of things I'm not going to show you for various reasons. What's my hair even doing? Probably should have shaved for this video. Shoved. Now, for this video to work, I'm banking on the fact that I actually know where all the files and stuff are that I'm going to show you. I might show you over here? I'm going to show you over there. I should put it somewhere. Maybe this way. Because then the microphone is kind of like we're both looking there. We're going to put it over there. The first one I can think of way back when, this might have been either season 4 or 5, probably 5. I was working on this video that was, the premise was, you make your own fun. Because a lot of people who watched my videos, I was always updating about conventions and cool things going on in Toronto or in the Toronto area. And I wanted to kind of give the idea that, like, don't feel like you can't have this where you're watching this from. Because people would write in and be like, oh man, you're so lucky you have all this in Toronto. It's like, what you have to keep in mind is someone started these things. Be it conventions, be it like weird karaoke nights or themed costume, whatever events. Someone had this idea. Now, granted, in a bigger city, it tends to be a little, to a degree, easier to assemble such a thing because you might find more like-minded people. But wherever you are, you could start the thing that you're lacking. And I was trying to make a video that was kind of about that idea, but in smaller ways. I never actually ended up finishing it because there was a chunk of it that was going to take so long to edit. In a tribute to a video I made way back when with my friend David, we spent a night jumping on broomsticks, took photos of every time we jumped around the city, and turned it into like a flying broom video. We did this again, but on a bigger scale with a bunch of people to make a Quidditch match of all of us on brooms flying around in stop motion. And I never ended up actually making it because just like I just got so busy and having to go through every single frame and stuff, and a lot of jumping. The point is, this was when that documentary came out about people doing Quidditch in college and stuff like that. And it's like, you can too, was what I was trying to say, and showing just the most ridiculous example of doing it. So there it is. Why did I point that way? It's not over there anymore. Remember before people started saying doobly-doo? It was either that way or that way. No, it was this way. Because YouTube, the old YouTube, all the information was over here, right? Back in 2008. And then there was reply videos that actually connected to your video, so you could reply to people and they could reply to you. You got this ongoing, I guess it went bad somewhere. It was a good idea. What else? Oh, during the second season of Talking to the Camera, right at the end when I was moving out of the first place you would have, no, that's the first season then. Wait, what? I think at the end of the first full season of Talking to the Camera, since the seasons were based on whenever I moved houses, because I was just like, I was moving every year, and then I'm like, well, to change the scenery, let's call it a new season. YouTube at the time introduced the clickable links. Create a little highlight box and click that. And like some people were experimenting in the whole choose your own adventure thing. So I filmed a whole, with a big crew actually of people, lots of helpful friends, and I'm so sad that I never actually finished this. It was called The Choose Your Own Adventures of Dr. Professor and Friends. I filmed a Choose Your Own Adventure episode that had multiple endings, and I played the titular role of Dr. Professor, hence why I never released it, because once I started seeing myself acting, which I didn't normally do on video, normally I was just talking, which I prefer to do, I was just like, oh, I don't want to do this. Why am I trying to act as a character? On screen. I prefer voice acting, if you're wondering. But it was pretty crazy. One of the alternate endings, which was one of the first false ending, I guess, because it ended the show like 2 minutes in, was there was a knock at the door, and if you chose to answer the door, instead of escaping out the back room, the door was just full of people ready for a party. And then it was just like a rave for the rest of the video of us just like tearing it up and dancing and drinking and debauchery. And someone had a Nintendo Power Glove. It was crazy. And I probably can't show any of the footage from that because that was actually a legit moving away party. I timed the shoot the same time that we were moving out of the place. So we had to get rid of that alcohol somehow. Oh man, there was some crazy twists and turns in the adventures though. Whether someone dodged a punch or not changed the video, and it was like in slow motion, this like shot of a fist flying through the screen, like it was a dude about to punch someone, and then you had to like click dodge. It was basically like those Don Bluth games, friggin' Night Dragon cut 'em ups or whatever it's called. Don Bluth, Space Blast Boy, Space Blast Man, Space Ace. Yeah. Memory lane. I'm just gonna run out for a second and make sure the audio is recording on this one because this is good stuff. Okay, we're good. We're good. What other unaired specials are there? Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, yeah, so this was right around the time that Les Mis, when I was trying to be contemporary, when Les Miserables, the musical movie, was about to come out. Because I think that's the one. Is either that or the live action, not musical version, I forget. This was in the series of like how things are made kind of videos, and I was trying to do one of those split screen sing, I just called it split screen sing thing, because there never really was a term for that. You'll see it usually for like a cappella videos and stuff. There'd be like a dude in one corner going like doop doop, and a dude in the other corner going doop 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 doop, and a guy in the other corner going doop 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 doop. Anyway, I was just going to explain, I was just going to kind of show how you do that, but to the song in Les Mis, One Day More, where I dressed up as every character and learned that song cold. I might have a clip. What else was there? Video-wise, I'm not sure if there was much else that never got made. There were scripts that were definitely written for later talking to the cameras and stuff that I kind of want to revisit at some point as like maybe a audio podcast type series. Speaking of which, I briefly had a podcast back then too called Talking to the Microphone. Not much to say about it really. It was mainly just an excuse to trick people that I knew into being on a podcast, because I'd invite them over, and then I'd just be like, oh, can you just test something for me on this? Is this microphone working? Guess what? You're in an episode! And I'm like, gotcha. But the cool thing about it was I kind of delved into the topics with friends that I've never really talked to them about before, like getting deeper into like why a friend of mine got into enjoying hockey, which is kind of like an interesting story if I remember. Or why another friend got into being a yoga person, as they call them in the biz. Or which kind of shampoo you like to use, I think was in one of them. I don't know. I didn't ask that question. Speaking of audio, some people have actually heard this, but no one else. I almost don't want to say too much about it because I might still release it someday. I wrote a shoujo romance audio drama. I have a fully recorded episode. And in theory, you would think it's meant to be a parody, but I approached it more from the angle of, based on everything I've read, and I've read a lot of every genre, how would I write a shoujo manga? In the spirit of like Fruits Basket, Peach Girl. I think there's this one in their Hot Gimmick, which has some questionable content in it. Meanwhile, all the boys were just reading Battle, Catch, Collect Them All comics and not learning about life. Shonen Jump's a lie. Anyway, it's fully recorded. All the voices are mostly edited. I started slowing down when it came to sound effects and music because I was trying to compose the music. I'm not the best musician. I came up with a couple ditties, but I really wanted to have someone who was good to do it. But I also didn't want to like drop my projects on other people. So that lays in wait. But very good performances in it. You may hear it someday. Well, after all the talking to the camera stuff, at some point with my British buddy Matt, we kind of came together and started making this comic. Basically, it was a giant robot fighting thing because it's a genre I haven't touched yet. And it was like, just like maybe a year or two before the Power Rangers movie, the live action one that just came out, was going to be coming out. So like all this super big robot stuff was like coming out after I was like, all right, you know what genre hasn't been touched in a while? Giant robots, let's do this. And then all of a sudden, like, all this giant robot stuff came out and like Pacific Rim and things. I'm like, crap. Not that it was like a competition thing. It was just kind of like, it's that thing of like, you feel like you waited too long to do something. But never let that dissuade you, because there's always room for more content. It's got some good jokes and art in it. Long ago, I recorded the first chapter of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with a buddy of mine. Again, we didn't do anything with that. I also just want to point out, this makes it sound like I just started and stopped doing projects. But if you're on this YouTube channel right now, you can see there's a lot that did get released. So don't worry. Geez. There's something else I forgot if I did or not. Let's see. Here we go. Oh! I also wrote all this stuff about my trip to Halifax. I was going to call it 30 in Halifax and make it as like this very somber narrated trip to Halifax. There's still like one part that I really want. Actually, two parts. The Bee Lady and Dartmouth. Anyway, those are stories for another time. I've been meaning to cut together the Shannon Japan footage. It was my solo 2016 Japan trip, and I kind of documented a lot of it. The problem is I mostly documented it through photos, and photos aren't terribly fun to look at, so the video was going to end up being like a slideshow with a narrative, which is all right. And then every now and then we cut to like footage of stuff that I actually probably already even posted on Twitter, which is usually like the updates of like, hey, I'm in wherever. By a mountain. Then there was also the live Periscope full stream, complete stream of my first experience of Disney Tokyo, which the only reason I haven't been able to share that is because Periscope is a very weird system where if you even download your full stream from somewhere, the audio never syncs up with the video no matter what you do. I've set in points and out points and like made things perfect, and the audio always desyncs. And the camera, when you flip from face view to front view, it does this weird thing and it's just the worst and it's upside down. But if you want to see the whole thing at some point, I think I have to like literally just screen capture it while it's playing with like OBS or one of those softwares. I think the frame rate's like 12 frames. Over at the Uber friendship page, remember that? There's a time before cars were called Ubers, and people weren't coming to our Facebook page being like, are you cars? No, we weren't. And then we closed the site down. I kind of use that section for like a test pilot area for like mini shows. Things like Misery Kitchen, which was really fun to do. Basically a cooking show of making those tiny mini food packs that you can get at malls and certain candy shops, and them just going horribly wrong. There's Unboxed Finally, which the show only really exists as an excuse to finally open up all these boxed figurines I had from like Nendroids and Figmas and stuff. And there's actually a couple more episodes that were filmed, but I'm just like, I kind of got to the point where I didn't want to promote people's products for no reason, even if it was just for a test and for fun. I don't know, it felt kind of weird after a while. When it comes to songs, now you may already know I'm not very good at playing piano or whatever it is. Tickling the ivories, as they call it, or called it. Way back. All throughout my life, I've always been writing like little weird songs and ditties and never really do anything with them. Some of them were also just like weird remixes that as a kid, this is like going way back, that we used to like just sing for fun. There's one about Barty Crouch, and it's a dumb one, and it's not good, and it's the worst. There's another one about Sailor Mercury, which has been stuck in my head forever. Though more recently, right before The Shape of Water came out, and I really knew nothing about it, I wrote the Bad Guys musical song. I would really like to make that, actually, because it's what I assumed the plot was, and it was pretty far off. Just to give you a taste, I believe I titled it, I'm Gonna Eat That Fish Man. Was there anything else I didn't do? Oh yeah, the Star Trek review show. Probably should have asked Graham if I could show that. Is that everything? Now I resort to the internet. I actually made a document about this. Oh, right. I dabbled with Let's Playing and didn't commit to that. Mainly because I did a dumb British voice, and I don't know why. Oh, there's another podcast that was called Inadequately Informed. Episode 1 was called The Heavy Petting Zoo. Anyway, I think that's about all of the unreleased things I could think to talk to about. Because this is everything ever except that, so there's probably a bunch I'm not telling you. But why do all this? What's the point? Honestly, it's just for you guys to be like, hey, no, don't feel bad if you've never released certain things that you wanted to and didn't for various reasons. Because there's plenty of better ideas and projects you're going to come up with to do, and ones that will really just grab you and make you want to keep doing them. There's a certain point where you have to accept that it's all right not to do. Also, the long and the short of it, a lot of the stuff I made in video was often kind of like my sketchbook. It was my practice. It was how I honed my skills as an editor, as a video compositor, as an audio voice acting, and it was just fun to do. And maybe making this video for my sake is like to finally let it all go, to let the guilt of unfinished projects finally drift away And you can too. Anyway, this is what you get with an unscripted episode of Talking to the Camera. Not to say there's gonna be more. There's not much else to say. So, from all of us here at TttC, thank you! Thanks for watching all those years back. Making videos on YouTube and making stuff on the internet in general opened so many opportunities, many of which have led to me where I am right now, literally in the spiky room. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for doing YouTube content. Because when you release your content to the world, you open up your creativity to others, and they who have similar sensibilities want to join with you on this journey together. Beyond all that, if you want to keep tabs on the things I'm up to, probably the best way to do that is on Twitter, Shaggy Shan on Twitter. I didn't introduce myself at the start of the video, I'm awful. It's been a while since I did this. I don't think I had a closing line like, "This has been Talking to the Camera, you've been talked to it added." No, I never did that. I think I usually ended my video on saying something dumb and then looking to the right.